Good evening, everyone, or good morning, whenever you happen to be listening to this program. I am Stead, and this is another episode of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. If you are a loyal listener to this show, which I'm sure all three or four of you are, in the coming weeks, we're going to be rebranding. We're going to be rehashing things out, and so we will get that information out to you as soon as we get that together. But we are coming to you this week with an abridged show. Right now, those several of our correspondents are currently indisposed. Hopefully, they can join us a little bit later. But I am on live with my very good buddy and one of my absolute favorite correspondents, and I would say the person who produces some of the best solo content I've ever posted, Professor Matt. Professor Matt, how are you doing today, my friend?
We're doing all right, Stead. We're doing all right. It's hot as Hades up here in the Philadelphia area. I can't imagine what it's like down in Georgia, but we live. First week of classes, new semester started, and uh, yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So with the early start of the league, we still have some days left in the transfer window, so that's still going on. But I'm sure we'll get
Get
into that
out.
as yeah, we'll get into that as we get probably next week after everything kind of all the dust settles. I know with the squad that I support likes to seem to wait till the last minute to make some big moves because we still don't think got the player that we really need, and that's someone that can put the ball in the net consistently. But outside of that, I think we should go ahead and just chat about what's going on in the Premier League. And of course, we have the start of Champions League coming up, and a lot of the qualifiers that are from the regions that that you've been great about following and keeping us up to date on. So if you could, touch on that a little bit too. But I would like to just go ahead and jump into Premier League because we have, I would say, a relatively typical start of the year. I can't say that there are many surprises outside of maybe Man U's loss, but as we all know, Brighton comes to play. But Matt, go ahead. I see you're already ready to go.
I
So let me
think
know.
there is one sort of surprise, and it's not shocking, but I knew Everton were going to be bad. I think we all did. I didn't think they were going to be this bad, and they were going to be. Here's the thing: like you knew they weren't going to win many matches, but in a way, they have arguably the best manager in the league to deal with that in Dyche because okay, his teams aren't going to score many goals, but they're also not going to concede many historically.
Right.
Their defense looks like a freaking sieve, man.
Yeah.
And did you see the goal Sun scored? Uh,
No, I didn't.
oh, our buddy Pickford messed up. He did one of his spaz things. And Son being Son and being one of the smartest players in the league,
Absolutely.
saw this and was just like, all right, I'm just gonna run and maybe something will happen. And indeed, it was like he passed the ball to him, and it was like, why did you do that?
That's Pickford being Pickford. I'll say this: Jordan Pickford should wear an England top under his goalie jersey because he seems to play much more controlled when he plays for England than he does when he plays for his club, and that seems to be true for quite a while.
That's true. I think the England setup also masks some of his deficiencies.
Yeah.
Uh, because even Gareth Southgate, which is probably his greatest supporter over the
Hmm.
years, when a healthy Nick Pope was available,
Yeah.
was the
Pope
starter.
was a starter.
Pickford ran sat bench. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would put Ramsdale above Pickford. The only problem is that Ramsdale is just kind of like sorry man, I felt bad because that's probably the only situation where a guy makes team of the year. Maybe something like De Gea, but a guy makes team of the year and then gets benched the next season. But he's going to Southampton. It looks like so that'll be good. That'll get him regular
I'm
minutes. So
I'm
that'll be
I'm
good. And they
happy.
need a goalie. They need a goalie bad.
I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I'm happy for him.
Uh, he's arguably, like you said, the most talented English goalkeeper
Hmm.
world at the moment. He just needs to get his freaking head straight.
Yeah.
Like he got into a bad place, and
Hmm.
look, I don't want to make being a professional educator, particularly a professional educator in the era of we actually diagnose learning disabilities and
Hmm.
stuff. If indeed it is ADHD, which is, look, I have students with that every semester, as
Hmm.
you do. there are ways to sort of accommodate that. And I think, and it was a minority of Arsenal fans.
Hmm.
A handful that did have wise ass things to say made that situation weirdly toxic last
Hmm.
year too.
Yeah,
So
it was
I
unfortunate.
think getting out of there and he's a guy who needs a fresh start.
Yeah.
Thing is, at Southampton, he should start
Oh,
because
yeah.
they've been linked with the Ukrainian keeper who was the keeper of that club I had mentioned in the last Central Eastern European update that no
Hmm.
longer exists.
Yes,
He
right.
needs work,
Hmm.
but Ramsdale is easily the bigger talent. It's
Hmm.
just again getting his mind back in order.
Yeah. Well, I think not only getting out of Arsenal, getting out of London is
Yeah,
a good idea. I
yeah.
think I think not being in London, not being in Manchester, just being in a place that actually has a team that, yes, they've had a tough run of it the last couple of years, but you could say the 5 or 6 seasons before that, Southampton was a quality Premier
Oh,
League
no,
club.
when
And
they when what was the Austrian manager they had? House
oh,
Awful? Uh, he
now I
was
gotta look it
there
up.
for
I know
eons,
exactly who you're talking. He's there
but
for a
yeah,
while.
they were a solid pin down mid table team.
Yeah, like them being ninth, 10th was actually pretty much an
Normal, yeah.
expectation by that point. So it'll be good for him. I'm sorry, I gotta find this manager. It's gonna bother me until I
I
see it.
think it's House and Hoofel.
See for Southampton.
Yeah,
Let's see, is this former managers? Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong list. Like, that's not the right list. Like, that guy plays. All right, I'll look it up in a minute. But I will say this that for the sake of England, also getting him out of
yes.
I'm sorry, they got to move past Pickford. They just do. They do. They got to move past them. And we recapped the whole situation with England the previous shows. So we really necessarily touch on that again. But yeah, I don't think I can see how Everton probably wasn't expected to be as bad as they were so far. But I still don't see them getting relegated. I
Neither
still
do
see them riding the ship at some point.
neither do I. There's enough talent there, and
Right.
I don't know. I get it. It's been their defense has been inexplicably bad.
Hmm.
But one thing I know about Sean Dyche managed teams, they won't beat themselves.
No, they won't beat
They'll have to
themselves.
work to beat them.
Yes. And I can also say one thing I know about Sean Dyche teams is that I don't think that's going to be the game I'm going to watch if another game is on at that time. I'm probably
Well,
not going to
yeah.
watch
So
Everton because it's
only
just the most dull.
usually you only see the Dyche when he's playing. Whatever team he's managing is playing your club.
Your team, yes, yes.
Yes.
But if it's Everton versus Man City and I could watch Ipswich Town versus Aston Villa, I'm watching Ipswich Town versus Aston Villa. Absolutely, absolutely. I can honestly say too about Villa. Um, I think that this past weekend the loss to Arsenal was worse for Villa than it was as a win for Arsenal. Because when the Champions League season starts, I can see Villa struggling a bit because that's going to be a lot for them to handle. And I don't know if they have the depth to do so, especially with this new Champions League format that's going on.
I mentioned this, I think, offline when we did our EPL predictions. And
Mhm.
I had Villa, I think I had them sixth. I
Yeah,
don't
I think I have them eighth
I
actually.
think I don't think there's gonna be a total drop off.
Yeah,
Can't see them finishing top four
yeah.
because look, we saw this last year with Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Champions League is different.
Mm-hmm.
Champions League with this new format that I'll be on record, I hate. Uh there's too much football.
Yeah.
It's goofy. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but with this new format, there's going to be a drop off. They don't have the depth, and I know everybody's favorite Castilian, uh, you know, two bit uh, theater company Dracula impersonator. Your team's former manager is, a European guru, but it's only really in the Europa League.
Yeah.
You look at his record
Mm-hmm.
in the Champions League, it's not great.
It's not great at all.
Really
It's
not
not great at
great.
all. You could even see him maybe just going, let's just get to Europa League.
Well, but see, that's the thing with the new format. This is the one thing I do like. There
Mhm.
is no drop off to the Europa League.
Oh, that's
Once
right.
once the final brackets are set, if you don't qualify outright, you're out of Europe. So there's a real scenario that by New Year's, they're simply going to be playing, domestic ball.
Okay. All right. I'll need to do more.
Yeah,
I've been trying to.
that is the one thing I do genuinely like
I do
about the
too.
new format
Because
because going back to Unai Emery, Sevilla will be stopped.
yeah.
They like the reason they win the Europa League
Hmm.
every year is they get to the Champions League.
Hmm.
They're just good enough to finish third,
Hmm.
and then they get put into the Europa League and
Right.
do it.
And they're able to score through.
Yeah,
And it's funny. I will say that I did, at least if you were going to do that, I like the whole thing that you had to play against the second place team of a group in like a knockouts game, because relatively often you saw the Europa League team win.
that's
And
true.
which why I was like, okay, at least that's better, because you're not just going, okay, you guys just go play over there. It's literally like, no, we're already here. You got to come beat us. And you got to remember, we're feeling pretty good because we finished second in our group. You're feeling pretty bad because you just got knocked out of your group. So now you're not even guaranteed Europe anymore. You got to come through play us. And I thought that was at least it was a way to say, we're not just going to have you play Europa League until we can get some of the drop offs from the big league to come and give us more money down here for this tournament.
Yeah,
I
I
did
think
appreciate
there's
that.
in some ways that's kind of and I agree with you, but I think it's sort of offset because so once the actual bracket, the Champions League teams, the group stage teams are set, it's set. But with
Okay.
the playoffs that just wrapped up, those teams, so like Dynamo Kiev, who finished
Right.
in the UPL, they're automatically into the Europa League. So you're
Okay.
better teams in the Europa League group stage, right? Because you're
Hmm.
getting the likes of Dynamo Kiev,
Right.
RB Salzburg, actually, because they didn't win the Austrian Bundesliga. So there's gonna be some pretty good teams
That's good.
Europa League group stage. So I think that does sort of offset it because my one problem with the Europa League is there's always that one team in the group where it's like, oh, okay, you you actually don't have a shot. So like you have to do like research. It's like what Scandinavian country does the
Right.
play in?
Right. You finished third in Denmark of a
Yeah,
10-team
so
league, and somehow
word,
you qualified for
exactly.
Europa League because you wanted domestic cup or something like that. And you're seeing them. I always laugh when I would look at Europa League too, and you would see a team on Google that doesn't have their shield yet as a display. It just has the blank diamond there, the blank kite, and that's all you got. So you're like, oh man, where are they from? And they're some team from Romania or something like that that you've never heard of. Um, well, while we're over there, what should we be paying attention to in that part of the world as far as this qualifying stage? Are there any teams that you see that like a Dynamo Kiev team that can come into this Champions League group and actually make somebody really uncomfortable?
You'd say Shakhtar, right?
Hmm.
Because they have a bit of a European pedigree, and
Yeah.
depending on what group they get
Oh, they
put
don't
in.
play against Arsenal. Shakhtar is giving
Like,
Arsenal
yeah, like
pains.
Arsenal doesn't travel well to
No,
Eastern Europe. I
no,
talk about some of my
no.
fondest memories from when I first started watching the game. I remember watching Dynamo Kiev, Shevchenko and Rebrov in the late 90s
Yeah.
abusing Arsene Wenger teams,
Yep.
a frozen
Oh man.
crappy pitch in I don't know, like February in Kiev.
Yep. Yep.
Uh I'd say probably Shakhtar is the most equipped.
Hmm.
What I will say though, their league form has been atrocious. Uh
Really? Okay.
so the Ukrainian leagues on week 3, and I was going to record uh recap or an update probably in a few weeks once we got a little bit more clarity.
Hmm.
They won their first match convincingly, and then they've just lost two in a row. And I don't know. There still is some uncertainty about incoming and outgoing transfers because even though Ukraine crapped the bed during the Euros, there's no other way around that.
Hmm.
Jorge Sudakov is still a name who's wanted in Europe.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of, okay, where's he going to go? Taras Stepanenko, I guess before we all just became Ukrainians was like my greatest villain because he snapped my boy Andrei Yarmolenko's leg in the head.
Hmm.
But uh he's the captain, he's their number six, but he's only 4 years younger than me at this point. So like his time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And look, the one thing they've never really addressed is the striker position. They
Hmm.
have Lasana Torore, who you may remember for his cup of coffee in England,
Yes.
uh, and Danilo Sikan, who I think I figured out who Danilo Sikan is. He's a young Ukrainian striker. He was on that Ukrainian under 19 team that won the U20 World Cup back, and I want to say 2019, maybe. Uh, but he looks like a number nine
Hmm.
to the point that Arsenal, who need a number nine, would probably be lining up to get him. But he's and look, he's still young enough where this narrative can change. He,
Okay.
he's Eastern Slavic Christian Benteke.
Ah.
He looks like he should score 20 goals a season, but he's incapable of doing so.
Oh,
So
man.
they're having problems scoring goals.
Okay.
And I think the Sudakov drama is a little bit of a distraction, and their spine or a big part of their spine is yay close to Saudi Arabia or the old folk.
Mm.
So I there you would say Shakhtar, right? Because even though you're not going to Ukraine, obviously now, still going to Poland to play
Right.
them is,
Right.
it's not easy. But I don't know. I think with the Eastern European clubs, and in a way, this new format does simplify it for them. Watch the Europa League and watch the Conference. And
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons why when I first heard about the Conference League, I was like, this is asshat.
I
Uh,
had,
this is UEFA trying to make more money.
yep,
I've come to love that competition.
1000% agree.
And I think it is for these clubs, the teams that finish second, third in like Ukraine, or in some cases because of the way that the qualification works, the champions in leagues like Albania and stuff.
Mhm.
Like this tournament allows these teams to have puncher's chance.
Absolutely.
Uh so Dynamo Kiev in the Europa League, again, I think depending on who they get grouped with, I could see them making a run. And I have been told on good authority. I haven't. I claim I do not watch the Serbian league, but I
Hmm.
watched a little bit of them in preseason because they did play Dinamo. Red Star Belgrade.
Hmm.
Uh I wouldn't. I would. There's a weird mix of young homegrown talent and dudes from Latin America and Africa who we are aware of
Hmm.
might work out in the West, but have found a home and a niche in the Serbian league.
Hmm.
That could they could potentially talk to people. I don't know. I mean, it's tough because the Champions League with the way the coefficients are, Shakhtar's the only guaranteed Ukrainian team.
Hmm.
And I think maybe one. I think the winner of the Czech League, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. I think though, but you brought up the Conference League, and you look with the growth in the just exposure of the Europa League. We can talk about Sevilla and all that, and many times they've won, but look at the teams that are winning Europa League more consistently now. These are big four teams in their respective big five in the big five leagues who are winning this tournament now. So, which makes me love the Conference League. I think with conference, it's only a matter of time before you see a team like a PAOK in Greece winning that
It's
tournament.
funny because I was actually going to address them because that's the other sort of Eastern Europe.
Look, they have had some relative success recently too, because like the Greek league outside of the poison that is Olympiacos is actually, I think, it's a good competitive league. The Greek league is look, there's enough videos on YouTube to tell you of the corruption of that league.
Oh,
And
mildly, yeah.
I mean, it is, and I mean, the way they keep Olympiacos as the team is really it's criminal. But the the players and the support that these smaller clubs get is fantastic. When PAOK won, this is probably 5 years ago in the Greek league.
I think it was about 4 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it was right before the pandemic
right.
broke through. Yeah.
Yes. And the celebrations that they had were some of the most epic videos I've ever seen of a club celebration. It was fantastic. So you're going like, okay, there's a lot more going on here than Olympiacos, who will, them and Monaco will beat Arsenal in Champions League group stage match. But there's I can just see a team like that easily,
So
not easily, but winning a conference league, and I think that would be fantastic because it's cool to see West Ham or Roma win stuff like that. But that would be really cool when you get out of those countries to get one of them in some European.
I think Olympiacos winning last year is a sign of what you're going to be seeing.
Yeah.
Conference League, where big teams and historic teams in smaller leagues.
Yeah.
This is their tournament.
Yeah, Galatasaray or Fenerbahce are going to get one. Trabzonspor might get one. Besiktas might get one. There's I just see four teams from Turkey that you can see winning this tournament. And I think that's what makes this great.
One of the big two potentially from Ukraine. One of the big Czech teams.
Yep.
If Steaua Bucharest ever got their shit together, because people forget Steaua Bucharest has won the Champions League.
That's right.
That happened.
Yep.
So
yep.
But it's funny you bring up PAOK. So it's obviously I haven't watched the Russian league literally since a particular day.
Understood.
But there's this fascinating story coming out of there in that so many of the big players in the RPL are deliberately running down their contracts. Because they realized that
playing. PLK won last. They won. I knew they won recently. They won last year as well. They've won two recently. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
So a lot of the big players over there are just winding down their contracts and moving west to become free agents. Now, unfortunately, because the Russian league's been in a freezer, bigger clubs aren't really interested. Fedor Chalov, who's a striker for CSKA Moscow. He's the guy that scored those 2 goals against Real Madrid when CSKA beat them at the Bernabeu. Young kid at the time, I think he's 23. Liverpool was linked with him. Arsenal was linked with him. He ran down his contract and signed a 1-year kind of prove-it deal with PAOK in Greece because his name's been out of circulation.
Right.
Yesterday's news. He's still 26 then.
That's young.
I hope he balls the F out in Greece and latches on to some big team in Western Europe.
Yeah.
Because he is a sublimely talented player who I am convinced if it wasn't for COVID and, Vladimir Putin would be playing. Maybe not at an Arsenal or a Liverpool, but I don't know, at a West Ham.
Yeah, Leicester.
Right? Leicester. Yeah. Jamie Vardy, that's one of the cool surprise stories of the season.
Yeah.
He's so fast, man.
I don't we my Vardy love fest has been going on for quite long enough. I think that's probably the one player who I was really hurt that Arsenal didn't get off of that squad was Vardy. Of course, if I hear another time when Wenger says I could have signed N'Golo Kante, I don't want to hear who you could have signed, Wenger. You didn't. But they actually went after Vardy, and Vardy chose to stay, which makes me respect that even more. He's still what, 37?
Yeah.
But I think first of all, the best decision he made was saying no to England, like just saying no. Look, I'm not going to be coming here training. I'm not playing. You're not going to pull Harry Kane off the field, and we play the same position. I'm not going to be overtaking some of your young wingers. I'm basically going to be coming in off the bench, and I'm 32 years old. I'm just now getting my England legs. I'm not doing that. Focus on my club. And since then, they've won an FA Cup, been relegated, came back. He's signed and signed. He's still scoring goals. Oh, and he won a Golden Boot since that happened as well. And he has now scored more goals after the age of 30 than I think any other Premier League player ever has. But he's 37. He still has 3 full seasons. Look, he's showing no reason to retire. If he's only playing a Premier League schedule, and if they get further along into cups, that's all he's playing. He can keep playing. He can keep playing. The way his game, his physique is suited for his game.
And maybe, speaking of what you're sort of invoking what you just said, an aging but gracefully aging Jamie Vardy and a young Fedor, just entering his prime,
Yeah,
Fedor Chalov,
that would
like
be
that could work.
that could work.
Again, if I had to compare Chalov's game to a player that we all know, think Wolves early Liverpool Diego Jota.
Mm-hmm.
He's a striker, but if you want him to play out left, he can do that.
Mm-hmm.
You want him to play out right, he can do that.
He can play false nine as well.
He
can
play
play false nine.
Mm-hmm. And there's not a drop off.
Yep. Yep. That's exciting.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
He's a really he and a couple other guys really got the invasion really messed up their trajectory because they were on the verge of making moves to the west.
Got it.
And then it was like, well, we don't do business in Russia, so it's like, okay, crap. I have to literally, be Mbappe and just let my contract wind down.
Right. Well, that's okay. Well, that's good because that gives another reason to pay attention to that league. Because let's not forget AEK Athens also won relatively recently as well.
They are my team in Greece.
That's my team in Greece. Because it was. Listen, I'll tell you the reason why. My
hairdresser was over there a month ago. She got me an AKA scarf.
That's because it's funny that you have some connections. So I actually. Panathinaikos was the team that was on FIFA like 94. I'm a little bit older than you. And that's what that was like one of the first FIFA games I played. And I used to play with that team because I thought it was cool. It was like because they had the big teams, of course, in the big leagues. They had these random teams throughout Europe, and Panathinaikos is one of those teams. So I really wanted to go to that old stadium that they have. This is also, I think I was there in 2013, I'd say. So we go over there and we had a tour around Athens, just got in a cab. The cab driver just took you all around for the day. This guy was awesome. Took me everywhere I wanted to see and everything. And so I just asked him about the teams in Athens and his eyes got real big. He was like, oh, you follow football. I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, well, Olympiacos, I can take you over there. And I was like, no, I want to see Panathinaikos. And he got even more excited. He was like, oh, because he thought, of course, I would know they're a big club. And he goes, I'm not really a supporter of that team. So I said, do you support AEK? And dude, he lost it. He hugged me. He was like, that's my team. That's my team. He goes, you need to support that team. That needs to. And I looked at him and I was like, okay. And I switched that name from Panathinaikos and I now support AEK.
So whenever I'm looking for a team in a league, I'm like, does this club have history?
Mm-hmm.
And look, I literally, I'm sounding like a broken record because this is my lecture in my last class today. We talked about, sports and ideology, and it's like, look, the clubs you decide to root for, you're making a political choice.
Yeah.
I make a point to be like, what is the club whose supporters and ethos best matches with mine?
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, these guys, I
Yeah.
like these guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, the can we say the Hellenic Celtic? Because that's sort of what they are.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Che
like
Guevara, the banners in the crowd,
Yeah.
sort of punk rock kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
yeah. A little bohemian action to them. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the because yeah, the guy was telling. He said him and his buddies that he said they play football all the time, and he was like, we were in town for like 3 days, and he was like, hey, if you're around on Saturday, I'll come get you. You come play with me and and we were leaving like that Friday. I was so upset. I was like, can we just stay for the weekend? Because we were doing a whole like kind of like hopping around Europe because I just wanted to go run around and have a kickabout with some guys and learn more about this club and stuff. And I'd probably get slide tackle, break my ankle or something like that, but I didn't care. I just wanted to go play with them. I thought it was going to be
hey, you're
a lot of
better off
fun.
breaking your ankle in Greece than in this country.
You got that right. You got that right. But yeah, also too, there's something I kind of do. It's probably because I've been a long time Arsenal supporter. I like to look at the team that's kind of third in the kind of like the run, like not necessarily the third as most championships, but who's kind of the third team that has, as you said, has some history and is a good popular team, but isn't the team that's got all the money or everything like that. And of course, so like when I was first looking at Spanish teams, of course, I looked at Atletico Madrid because that's kind of the third team. But then, of course, I fell in love with Sevilla, so I like Sevilla. But I've just kind of done that. So when I saw how IAK was with the way they kind of finished after Panathinaikos and Olympiacos, that's another reason why that team kind of appealed to me a bit because
Mhm.
I wanted to be able to root for something. I didn't want to root for them to finish 10th. So that's not something that I was fully comfortable doing all the time. I was like, they gotta have the chance to win something to make it worth my while. But that's really cool that we both kind of were circling that wagon anyway, because they did finish high, but I could see a club like that in the coming years. Because yes, if they're not going to
Yeah,
make it
the
long in another
Conference League
competition.
is made
But that's
for
what I love for the Conference League.
Greek, Turkish, uh, some of the Central Eastern European clubs
Mm-hmm.
have a little bit of cash.
Mm-hmm.
That tournament is made. See, this is also why the Russians screwed up.
Yeah.
A Russian club probably would have already won
Would
the conference.
1,000% agree. 1,000% agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. With their footballing history, there's no question that could have been possible. Absolutely. Yeah. It's sad. It's sad. But but that's I did the same thing though. I was like, this is stupid. This is a bad tournament. Nobody's gonna you're just trying to suck more money out. And then, you saw like Roma was able to win something, which was kind of nice to see.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
nice to see. I was tickled pink when West Ham won.
That was one of the best European finals
I
we've
I
seen in
agree.
a number of years.
I agree. I agree. I was so happy for them. I was so happy for them. And to see how this tournament that came off as this really underling tournament, how happy were their supporters and how happy were those players to get off that plane with that trophy and to share that. I was like, and that's when I was like, this is they're probably going to do another one, like a fourth level one. And I think I would be okay with it. I think I would.
Yeah,
I mean, I almost,
I would watch Partizan Tirana versus I don't know the sixth club in Portugal or something.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'd watch that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But
I would watch that.
I think part of it was, and we're old enough and we're jaded enough. We heard new tournament. Like I still because right there's an international break coming up.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of the nations?
I can't.
I like I look, this is coming from someone who loves international football, but why
Yeah.
don't we just play more qualifiers in the summers in between major tournaments? Because you would actually get more viewership and it wouldn't completely. If you want to have two international breaks, one in the fall, one in the spring, I'm cool with that.
Hmm.
We don't need three in the fall.
No,
We
we don't.
really don't.
No, we don't. And look, you can. Mike actually has a really good explanation explaining how and why this exists, and for countries that are smaller to get, excuse me, games and everything like that. But it still serves absolutely no purpose in the end. I don't think there's a problem with Northern Ireland and Luxembourg playing a friendly during one of those breaks. And there's no problem with that.
Well,
There's no problem with taking these clubs and having them taking these nations and just Kazakhstan does not need to play England. They don't need to. Like, this is one thing I like that Africa does is they have sub-regions within CAF. They have their
that
sub-regions.
is that is how I think UEFA should really sort
I
that
agree.
qualification.
And because
And
they
not
may
even
want to spread it out, but yes,
not
even do
even
it by UEFA coefficient if you want to.
not even necessarily by uh region geography.
It does, yeah. The geographic region
Coefficient.
doesn't have
'Cause
to
I
be that
get
way.
it. Okay, so like Georgia, who were a Cinderella story at the Euros, got in through the Nations League path.
Hmm.
But if you just did qualification where Georgia played the likes of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan,
Armenia, yeah.
Armenia, Luxembourg, etc., they probably would, get through there too.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
don't need to see them play in the Nations League and then have them play qualification matches
Hmm.
against the likes of England, Austria, etc.
Yeah.
Because that's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I don't.
the conference league is different. We like the conference league.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. I like the Conference League. The Nations League. Look, you can have your micronations play each other. I see San Marino and Liechtenstein are going to play. I'm sure that's going to be a very compelling game with the five professional footballers that play
I was just
for
about to
San
say
Marino, and
that
then the guys who are
we're going to
like
have a
farmers who
separate
have some.
qualification bracket
Yeah.
that's called overglorified pub teams. Gibraltar, because Gibraltar's just like a handful of locals and like former British sailors.
Right. Right.
That's what that team is.
Right.
Even even like Faroe Islands, like Poland played Faroe Islands in qualification, and I'm
Hmm.
like, all these people are related to one another, and none of them are actually professional football.
Mm-mm.
You got like
Mm-mm.
five dentists, a carpenter.
Right. Right. They probably have the kits in the dentist's basement, and his wife washes them before they go out
Yeah,
and play the game. It's really like it's a real waste of time. And the fact that Kylian Mbappe was talking about how the only tournament he hasn't won yet is um the Euro. He even said, I've even won Nations League. I'm like, dude, seriously, like, come on, man. That doesn't count. The United States wins Nations League. Like
yeah,
it
yeah.
does that should let
Regularly
you
at this point.
come on, man. Get out of
Uh,
here with that. Yeah, there's too many international breaks. I've said that for years. And I'll say this too. It's not FIFA's fault that I don't care about this anymore, at least for me. It's not their fault. The fault is the fact that this international soccer was so much more important to me when that was really the only way I could watch professional soccer. So, look, I
that
am this
I think
past weekend I turned 46 years old. There was not hardly any game on
I,
before.
I speaking as someone who's a little bit younger than you, but
Hmm.
frame of reference
Hmm.
and certainly gateway getting into the sport
Hmm.
effectively the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that.
Yes.
I,
But the reason why my interest has faded so much in international soccer is because I don't have to watch it anymore.
well, I think it's oversaturation.
Because yeah.
We can do qualification for tournaments without the song and dance of the nations.
Hmm.
Cut the amount of international breaks in half.
Right.
Uh, these players can be healthier, fitter at the club level,
Hmm.
and even dare I say, at the international level when it matters.
Right.
I mean, part of, and again, this could be him just, deflecting criticism. Even Sergei Rebrov, the Ukraine manager, said most of my team was fatigued before the tournament.
Well,
And the thing is, that might be him excusing, piss poor tactics because,
mhm.
as we both know, Alexander Zinchenko is not a left back.
No. And three
But
teams haven't figured that out yet.
no one has.
Yeah.
Pep has fooled everybody.
Yeah.
That's the power of Pep. Managers who know better are fooled.
Right. Right.
But I genuinely do believe him when he says that, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, I think I feel like we did a show at the start of the Euro and commented on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these guys just look a little tired.
Yeah.
And it's completely understandable when you have Nations League and you have qualifying and you have your club season and you have domestic cups and you have, as we just pointed out, we have 3 Euro tournaments. To the idea that there would be some fatigue that came when you got, these guys were literally cleaning their lockers out at the end of their club season, getting on a plane and going directly to their camp for international.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even get to go kiss the family. So there's definitely the fatigue factor, and it's something like Nations League, which really, I'm sorry, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think it's nearly as popular as I think they make us believe with the amount of advertising that they do for it. And it's for the big countries, it's completely unnecessary.
And I'll also be honest too, like where can you even watch this anymore? It used to be ESPN,
Yeah.
but
So
who has the rights to it?
I don't know. I know because that's why it was. You can stream it on ESPN. It's probably on something like Fubo right now, something like that. Which, I can honestly say I think Fubo had their run, and now you see Fubo commercials everywhere. And now I don't really see them at all. But
Yeah.
it's tiresome. And yes, the fact that we now have access to basically all of the big club games that are occurring in Europe. And now, if you want, you can watch the J League, you can watch the K League.
League.
Yep.
Watch the Kazakh Premier League.
Yes.
Want to
Yep. You can watch I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but you can watch the Brazilian and the Argentinian league right now as well in the United States. So you have everything at your disposal right now. So if you're looking at that, watching that, and then you see that the country that's your home country has 4 players who have rejected their call up this time around because they're injured or their clubs haven't released them and things like that, and they're playing Cyprus and Moldova and Malta. I just don't see anybody really tuning in, or if they're like when Saliba was hurt during their last international break in the fall, all of us were like, okay, good.
Well, yeah.
Go.
So
go.
The best,
take 2 weeks off.
This has been a weird summer and a weird transfer window for Liverpool. Some of the best news I got all summer, I got this morning. It was like Darwin Nunez banned 5 matches from Uruguay, and I'm like, good. He can stay at Merseyside, learn Arne Slot's system, won't run offside, and he can actually have the preseason he didn't have.
Right. Exactly.
I was like, cool. He's not going to get hurt, and he can just sit and learn.
Absolutely.
I'm totally all right with that.
Yep, especially after that debacle of a Copa America that they had.
So it's fine. My wife, shout out to my wife, was like, "Oh, how could you be cool about it? No, none of it." And I'm like, "Look, if I was in that situation and you were getting attacked, I would have gone Darwin Nunez and people. I think every one of us would.
Absolutely.
But that's beside the point.
Right.
To be fair, who really should get fined are the organizers of the tournament, the USFA, and the Charlotte police. But we don't live in a just world. So
yeah,
Nunez, a bunch of Uruguayans, they get the suspension.
Yeah, I could not have been more appalled at the way the United States ran that tournament.
I'm terrified
because
about the World Cup now because
Yeah,
that was amateur hour.
that was. And
Basic things we messed up in new and unusual ways.
right, but you have to look at it from the perspective of, look, CONCACAF will never propel you to the state where you think you need to be. The
No,
best CONCACAF was ever going to be was in the 80s when Mexico was pretty good. That's about it. That's the best it's going to get. Maybe you could say maybe up till about 2002,
I was
US
gonna
and
say
Mexico.
maybe mid 90s because you had the U.S. Mexico thing and
Yeah,
Costa Rica and Jamaica weren't trash.
right,
They weren't
right,
good, but they like
right, right, exactly. But the fact too that as we are all seeing, who's getting so much better now? Senegal, Morocco, you know, CAF is sort of like if North America is going to compete with anybody, hopefully it would be Africa. Well, that's clearly not happening. Africa's clearly passed. So now you're looking at, okay, well then the United States can compete with the likes of Saudi Arabia, Japan, Korea. To be honest,
I
I would pick those three countries over the
I
United
I was
States.
about to say the best five, maybe best six teams in Asia.
Yes.
Arguably, because again, I don't know how you feel about Australia, but Japan, South Korea,
Mm-hmm.
Saudi,
Mm-hmm.
and Iran.
Yeah.
I
Look, if
Iran,
China decides to take this seriously, there's no reason why they couldn't compete. They have the infrastructure, they have the money, they have the population for it. So my point is that there's lots of other opportunities in Asia. As you said, Iran, they've already beaten the US in an
yeah,
international tournament before. They've already made the US look stupid. I remember watching that game going, wow, they're getting killed out there. They're getting killed. They're getting embarrassed. So yeah, you six countries. And as you've pointed out, though, the Kazakhstani league,
Central Asia has
Central
money.
Asia is coming.
Central Asia is coming,
So,
and like you said, the Chinese and I maybe one day I'll do a piece on this.
okay.
China has to deal with the long shadow of a couple decades of dysfunctional football to say.
Yes. They
So,
tried with their league too. They tried. They made
well,
some bad mistakes, but they
but
tried.
even before that, like in the '60s, they were pretty much
Mhm.
cut off from the world.
From the world, yeah.
And when your government's like to be an expert is a problem. If you're a football manager, particularly one that probably got trained in the Soviet Union,
Hmm.
training their managers,
Right.
no, they decapitated an entire generation of specialists.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
like in the '70s when they like came back, it was like, oh shit, does anyone know anything about football?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like we actually decimated all these people.
But
Like,
let's not forget, though, the women were good in the late 90s.
well, but a lot of that is because the traditional male powerhouses
Hmm.
came late to women's
They came late to
football.
women's football. You're
Like
right. Yeah.
the Brazilians got it early. For whatever reason, the Scandinavians did.
Hmm.
Germans only started taking it seriously once they were like, "Oh, if you're not good at this,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm good at this."
Well,
But
you
like
saw in England and
Southern,
Spain,
like
Spain woke up half an hour ago.
exactly Southern Europe, between the whole machismo culture and stuff,
Hmm.
that's a huge impediment. Ditto Eastern Europe. Eastern
Right.
Europe should be way better at the women's game, but because football stadiums and football
Yeah, it's
drinking
very, very
culture
ugly masculine.
is so wrapped up in like toxic male
Hmm.
plus masculinity.
Hmm.
Like there's no like the Ukrainian women's league literally is 5 years old.
Wow.
There
It's
was
so funny that a sport like soccer, though, where it has so much flopping and fake injuries, would have that culture attached to it. It's just so odd that that's kind of the way it worked out. But, it is what I also understand, though, because of the socioeconomics of soccer, it just makes it so much easier for that to occur. And I've always
yeah,
said that, look, one of my good friends is from Somalia, and he's like, that's what they played growing up because all you needed was a pair of socks. They
yeah,
tell all their friends, go get
literally.
your socks. They'd make a ball of sock ball, and that's what they play with out in the streets all day. And that's so no, I understand. I just find it kind of funny that those two are related. But there's something I didn't want to lose my train of thought. Oh yes. So what I was saying was though, with to go back to the Copa America tournament, why I was so upset about the way it went down, though, was North America, at least the larger countries that seem to think they want to compete more on the world stage of Mexico, United States, Canada now, and I will include Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, Honduras. I will include those countries as well. You can't do that in CONCACAF. But if you were able to somehow make the Copa America tournament a true Copa America tournament where you had the 10 teams that were in CONMEBOL and you had a co-tournament with CONCACAF, and it happened, you could do it every 4 years, so to align with the Euro, and then do your other one on the off years if you want to do something smaller like that, that would be fine. But my point was that by the U.S. screwing this up as bad as they did, I felt like it risks the relationship to grow U.S. soccer as a way to make this as a Western Hemisphere kind of a thing that you can do. And
yeah,
look, we saw when I think it was 95 when the U.S. finished 4th in the Copa America when they were invited down there. And then South America is like, we're not going to invite them anymore because we can't have them win. And you saw it took a generation for that to kind of turn around again. And if U.S. didn't have, the infrastructure and the ease to put on a tournament like this as in comparison to other countries, then I would say that their chances are basically gone, which is really, 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 really sad. And I think
yeah.
with the and also with the immigrant population that are from all of these nations, you screwed it up. Like you just screwed it up. And also, it's like I had a buddy who used to say, "Man, how could you screw up a glass of water?" And it was gift wrap. Just roll it out there, and all you had to do was just have more people involved. That's all you had to do. Get more security out there. Take a couple of days to be a little bit extra prepared. Get the local communities that were hosting these games excited for it. So you don't have stadiums that are half full, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah. And like the 94 Cup was still, I think, the highest percentage of fans attended those games because they were basically telling people, just go to the stadium and buy a ticket. You can go watch a game right now. And people were walking by just going, oh, okay. And they were just going into games. And they had a 95% capacity rate for that entire tournament. So you've also done this before. Now, yes, it was 30 years ago, but still, I was in high school. I remember that tournament very clearly. I remember my dad telling me, because the problem was I was living in Bumblefunk, North Carolina at the time, but my dad telling me, had he known it was that easy, we just would have stayed in D.C. and gone, because they had games at RFK. Yeah, we could have just gone to some games at RFK. I didn't know that. He said we could have stayed at my grandmother's house. So I was so frustrated by that because I really feel like it was a lost opportunity. And you have a whole generation of people who have not seen you host a major tournament before. This was your shot to really host this to the world, to say, hey, we got the next World Cup, everybody come in, this is going to be great. And you just screwed it up. And yes, they do have another chance, but I really hope that doesn't bite them more than it already has. Because that's ridiculous.
And again, it was incredibly preventable. Just a little bit more security and just basic stuff. Why are families in the crowds? I've never heard of that before.
Especially at U.S. stadiums, they all got press boxes and club seats. Every stadium was a UEFA 4-star stadium. Every single one. You had no reason for that.
Why were they there? And I don't know. I went to the Liverpool Arsenal, friendly. And it was a friendly. I mean, I brought my buddy who's an Arsenal fan. We sat in the Liverpool section. But that's just it. There were still sections. Why is everybody there commingling like that? That's a recipe for disaster. It incredibly avoidable.
Yeah. But if you watch also but the way the game works, you don't have a lot of scoring. So when you do, what does the cameraman want to do? He turns that camera to the section of the country that is supporting that team. That's what they do. I still remember to this day, in the '98 World Cup when Nigeria beat Spain 3-2, and
One
Sunday
of the
Oliseh
best matches,
ever.
the best matches
Yeah,
ever.
one of the best matches ever. Sunday Oliseh in like the 80th minute hits a shot from about 25 meters out, and it goes right right near post, right in between the keeper's hand and the post. And I distinctly remember how long that camera panned to the Nigeria section and just slowly just went across. And again, that's stuck in my head. I was 19 during that tournament, and it was stuck in my head. And that is that's why you do that. That's why you do it. And again, it's just shows you the short-sightedness of them planning for this tournament. You don't have a lot of scoring. So you need to keep people together. So when they do score, you have those types of things. Also, you want to make sure that they're going to do their obligatory beautiful fan shots. They're going to be in the area where the team's supporters are going to congregate.
Or weird fan shots. So some of my favorite memories of international tournaments was, wait a minute, what the hell? Did I really see that?
Yeah.
Like, was it? It was. It was done. It was 2014. It was the Brazil tournament,
Mm-hmm.
and they had the Colombian fans,
Mm-hmm.
and they had the weed pope guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was in my old apartment. I was grading exams. It's just a summer class. And I looked up and I was like, "There's a guy dressed like the Pope. That guy's got swastikas on him. That guy's got weed on him. What does this mean? What did I just see? That's the most inexplicable goddamn thing."
Right.
Or the guy at the Euros dressed up as a French Foreign Legionnaire. I'm like, that's something. That's a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that makes it even worse, though. It
Yeah.
made the whole show because it happened at the same time as the Euro.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Euro going on at the same time. You're literally a week later. And
Compare and contrast.
yeah. So no, the team, the FA, they don't deserve any of the blame. I think all the blame needs to go to the U.S. Soccer Federation that put on that tournament and the local municipalities that were in charge of maintaining the atmosphere at those tournaments. Because there's passionate fans. I went to a Panama versus El Salvador game in DC, and if you know anything about DC, you know that the vast majority of the Hispanic population are from El Salvador.
Yep.
Big population.
Some of the best pupusas I've ever had.
And they are some of the nicest people you're ever going to meet. And so I was at this game. It was at RFK. I don't want to call it a stadium anymore. Hopefully it'll be a rubble pit sooner or later, because that stadium's been falling apart for about 25 years. But so I'm there, and the game was on right after a USA Jamaica game. I don't remember. I think the USA drew that game too. But I could not get over the atmosphere of that game. I was just like, wow. And then I had on a red USA shirt, but Panama also wore red. So I'm standing there. I am surrounded by Salvadorians. Now, if you look at if you're watching the video, if I spoke Spanish and said I was Panamanian, you would believe me immediately from my appearance. So, but not once did anybody mess with me.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. In fact, a lot of them were like, hey, Panama. And I was like, no, I'm American. And they were like, oh, sorry, you're American. And so that was a friendly. It was a friendly game, but you had a stadium that had been familiar with hosting those games because they've hosted lots of soccer games. They hosted a lot. That was I think the U.S. had the best record at that stadium at RFK. I think that's their best record. I saw USA beat Costa Rica to qualify. No, they drew Costa Rica. That was the game when Oguchi Onyewu tore up his knee and AC Milan got really mad. I was at that game.
Oh, yeah.
So, but and again, that makes it even worse because it's like, how to do this. You've done this before. You can't blame the fans, because I've been in that situation and I had one of the best experiences I've ever had. Only problem was when El Salvador scored, I got drenched with water and beer because everybody was just shaking them up in the air like this. It was a lot of fun. So that's again, I'm just going to chalk it up to, again, you had a missed opportunity there. You really did. You really did. And after the way the U.S. played in that tournament, and after their recent,
that just made it worse.
Yeah, it made it even worse. U.S. has not played well, and you have more talent now than you've had in 20 years, and US can't do anything. It's really sad. Like they can't really compete anymore. So hopefully, if they ever get a coach, you know what? We haven't talked about this at all. I'm totally going to shift back to Poch.
Yeah.
Is this go because it hasn't happened yet?
No, and apparently some of the issue is Chelsea still owes him money, which they are have not provided, but also too, there's apparently a deal in place with the Federation, but we're not certain whether that deal's in place, which is kind of crazy because the U.S. men's team, this international break is coming.
It's coming.
They play matches, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Like who's in charge at the moment? Like there's a lot of I've heard 4 or 5 different things about why he isn't the manager yet. And none of it really makes sense now. Like Chelsea maybe not having the money to like give him because they have you know three squad three three squads to pay.
Well, yeah.
Might
I
make
think I said last week they have like
and
192
several
million.
and
Yeah.
several other managers that you're still paying to not
Yeah.
there.
I think they have 192 years of contracts right now.
It's something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But yeah, this is a little disconcerting because it was
Yeah.
announced beginning of August.
Yeah.
We are now at the end of the month, and
Right.
officially,
US plays Canada next weekend.
yeah, and who knows who the manager's
Manager's position is vacant.
Yeah.
Who's going to make the call ups?
Is it?
That's where they don't even have a caretaker.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it even Burkhalter's dude, BJ, or is he gone?
Right now, if you look on the webpage, it says head coach vacant.
Okay.
It's like,
Okay.
this is so sad. I'm sorry.
Hey.
This is so sad. This is so sad. This is so sad. This is what you would expect from, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know. This is so sad.
Yeah, you can't even say because like a Mexico as dysfunctional as they are would find a guy.
They would find a guy.
Eastern European federations, they will always find some 75-year-old dude who was relevant at one point.
Right.
Appoint him.
Buy him a pack of cigarettes, he'll come do it.
Exactly. Straight up. 2 cartons of Marlboros, and we're all right. Yep.
That's
That's sad, man.
That's sad. That's really, really sad. Like, look, I get it. Soccer's what, 4th, 5th, I would say in popularity, but you got 350 million people in this country. Soccer's, you have a league of 30 teams. Like, there's no reason why you can't just put somebody in there.
Why at this point just be like the under 21 manager?
Yeah, just like, yo.
At least for this set of matches.
Right. No, it's, it's not even like this could totally fall through. And also, I'll say this about Chelsea too. If Chelsea chooses, if they don't have the money right now, that's fine. US Soccer, you can pay him.
Yeah.
Just take out a line of credit and pay him.
That goes back to, and maybe full circle to the organization or lack thereof of Copa. How much this is, at least on the men's side of the equation, this is not a priority.
No, it's not a priority.
Because if, let's say, I don't know, the Italian or the English FA wanted Pochettino, they would have paid Todd Bowley his money by this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Know that.
Absolutely. And the fact that Todd Bowley is American, I just think that's even, you can work this out. There's no language barrier. Just give him a call. Just give him a call. Hey, we got to work this out. And don't hang up until you work it out. It's, I think that's probably that. I would say that is a good snapshot of how US Soccer has handled this summer.
Yeah.
And we were all saying that Berhalter needed to go 2 years ago. And Berhalter's job was saved from private school parenting That's why it seems. That's why I'm sorry. I think if this thing hadn't happened with Reyna and Claudio Reyna and his wife, I think if that hadn't happened, I
Yeah,
think Berhalter would have been fired. I do. I don't
I
think they would have kept
I, I
him.
agree.
Yeah, I don't think they would. I think they would have been like, okay, thank you, but because there was a scandal, and they didn't want to not
You
show
couldn't use that as an excuse to fire him,
exactly.
even though you kind of probably should have.
You probably should have.
Yeah.
You probably should have. Yeah,
And
but
here's the thing too. And look, I think Pochettino would be an interesting choice. We could have gotten Jesse Mars not once, not twice, and we effed that up. And he's one of ours, Stead.
mm-hmm,
I don't know.
mm-hmm.
Canada is talent deficient. They looked okay in the
They
cup.
looked okay. They looked better
They
than the
looked
U.S.
okay.
did.
They looked competitive.
They looked better. And the sad thing is that Jesse March is turning a team that from that FA that was so dysfunctional before the last World Cup.
Yep.
He's making them look competent. He's making them look like they actually know how to play. He could turn this into a job going back to Europe.
Oh, easily.
Easily.
Easily. Because
Easily.
it was when he went to Leeds where his shine wore off because
Yeah.
remember, he was at Salzburg.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the hotter commodities.
He was. He'd
His
won the
name
league
was
a few
being
times,
linked to
and he
some
was having
big
success in Champions
jobs.
League.
Yep.
And then going to Red Bull was going to Leipzig proved to be more. And then look, they put him on a sinking ship in Leeds and said try to plug these holes with some candle wax. And come on, man, and I thought they that's what they do to. They did the same thing to what's the bald guy's name? Probably the best U.S. national team coach you've ever had, American guy. Kid played for the.
I'm
You know what
drawing
I'm
a
talking
blank.
about.
Yes.
See, that's gonna bother me now too. All right, let me look it up real quick. But when he went to Swansea, I mean, come on, he had no shot at Swansea. See, past managers. I keep on trying to say my brain keeps saying say Bruce Arena. I'm like, no, it's not Bruce Arena. Oh man, this is gonna really bug me. Here we go. Bob Bradley.
Yep.
Yeah. So um the whole thing too with that with Marsh was I agree they completely screwed that up because that was the time to bring him back home to say, hey, you kind of got a raw deal over there. We're gonna bring you back here.
It didn't work out for you in Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
We have an opening. You have a chance to, get your street cred back up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the perfect kind of blend because he's American enough where he won't piss off certain people in the Federation, but he's been abroad enough where I'll say it, the provincial attitude of American men's football.
Mm-hmm.
He's beyond that. He's done his thing in Austria. He's done his thing in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the thing too. And look, Jurgen Klinsmann wasn't a great in-game manager by any means.
Mm-hmm.
But his overall diagnosis of the issues of U.S. men's soccer proved accurate. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he was 100% correct.
Oh, 100% correct.
He was, as soon as he opened his mouth, he was public enemy number one because, what is this German bozo telling us, the United States, about our problems?
Right. But there were people when he was saying this stuff back in 2014 that he's right, and yes, you're right. The American arrogance totally was waving its ugly head, but he was exactly right. And when he said that you have a program here where you have parents are paying thousands of dollars for professional coaches so their kid can get a scholarship. that was when I was like, yeah, he's exactly right. He is exactly
He's
right.
identified why this is an issue. And
Yeah.
unless you're Alexei Lalas,
Yeah.
guy's reality and lives in a land of fairies.
Yeah.
Like for
Exactly.
real.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Exactly. And, you know, look, I've coached a lot of kids who were on. I just remember this one kid I coached. I used to work with his dad. He was a very level-headed, even-keeled kid, and he had a shot to go pro, and he ended up going to Georgetown. And when he was going to Georgetown, he was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to go pro." Like, so he knew back then that he was like, if I go to college, pro's probably not going to happen.
because this magnifies it. Because I was reading something today about the Dinamo Tbilisi Academy, and that same class of, like, I don't know, 2014, that had a young Marmadishvili, Kravachgelia, Davidishvili, all of these guys are the backbone of the Georgia national team.
Mm-hmm.
When your former student was going to college, these guys were already getting like legit paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've gone pro and they're progressing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If if Georgia laughs at you, they have the memo down right. Like that should be a
Right.
wake up call.
Right. It should be a wake up call.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you watch NCAA soccer, Coach Matt has a great. He talked about this a number of years ago. I want to have him do a short on that too. But he was very clear that the level of stifling of creativity that happens in American coaching and with collegiate soccer is it's just you have to, it's past this, past that, past this, past that, and then you see it though. Where I was watching some collegiate soccer because there was a few decent teams in the DC area, and you would see players in the I'd say the edge of the offensive third, and as soon as someone stepped in front of them, they froze. They didn't even try to beat their man, not once, and to the point where you're going, if you try and you lost, you lose the ball in a you're not in an advantageous position for the other team, and you're putting pressure on the defense. They can't just come up and challenge you all the time because you're going to beat them eventually. And you just saw these players would get the ball and no one did anything. And I'm looking at it going, wow, no wonder. I mean, this looks like NFL football back in the 60s when the first play was a handoff. And so it was always 1st and 10, 2nd and 8 every time. And there was just I want to say there was no creativity because I don't know if the players were allowed to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
So that culture of U.S. soccer is just continuing and continuing and continuing and continuing. And to see players without individual skill, you're never going to progress outside of the limited faction of the way you see these teams playing. And I've had more fun watching high school kids play than collegiate kids play. And it's primarily because of that. But
I know our time is limited, but I feel we should kind of talk very briefly. Uh what who does Arsenal have this weekend, and what are we thinking? And the transfer window's almost shut, so like, are you guys getting a number 9 or someone who can cover? I have to keep it real, and I'll be very brief about my boys.
well, the scary thing is we have Brighton.
Yeah. Okay.
We have Brighton. And who is having a resurgence of a career at Brighton? Danny Welbeck. Danny Welbeck is scoring goals. And luckily, we have the best defender in the league, if not the world. And Arsenal have not given up a goal yet this season. Only team that has not given up a goal.
Oh no, one of 2 teams.
Who else has it? I was wrong. Oh, Liverpool?
Yeah.
I thought you guys get. Oh no, you're right. My bad.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Ah,
Well, you have 1A, we have 1B.
got you. Got you. Got
So
you. Got you. Okay, my bad. Yeah, 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 yeah.
we got
You're
the
right.
young
You're right.
Frenchman, we got the old Dutch guy.
You know what? I saw when I saw this, Liverpool hadn't played yet, and because they only had one game in. That's
Uh-huh.
probably why I thought that wrong. But I I don't like the fact that Arsenal is winning and they believe they don't need a number nine because we see who's hurt again already is Gabriel Jesus. He's hurt again. That's proving to be our wasted signing. It's a shame because when he is healthy, he does affect the game positively, even if he doesn't score. But there is they signed somebody else. They signed a midfielder. I don't remember his name.
They signed the
Um,
other guy from Sociodad. Yeah.
yeah. So you have a midfielder, another midfielder. You still don't have a forward. And Arsenal, they have some players that are moving on. Don't forget selling Nketiah, even though Nketiah can score a hat trick and then end the season with 5 goals. So it's not like it's all that great of a thing.
It, it, it,
But
it I understand what Arteta wants to do there. But I guess my biggest issue is, look, I've come to embrace Kai Havertz can do this false nine thing.
yeah,
Uh, but he's not prolific.
no,
Neither really is Jesus. And the two of
no.
them are almost too similar.
Yeah, I can see that because
It's
they're
like
both playing out of position, kind of.
yeah, so like the NFL season's about to start. I'm a
Mm,
Dolphins fan.
mm,
And like I'm looking forward to the season, but I'm looking at our backfield and I'm like, this is weird because we have three of the same goddamn guy.
mm-hmm.
It's cool if one guy gets hurt, but there's
Right,
really no variety. It's
right.
just fast dudes. With Arsenal, it's almost the same thing at the number nine position. It's like, here's a guy who kind of can play the number nine, but
Mm-hmm.
really isn't a number nine.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we'll just roll with these guys. And it's like, look, I don't think your boys need to buy like a top of the line like even Tony.
I don't
I
either.
think you just need a guy who can do something different.
Exactly, exactly. And look, I wish they could find another Olivier Giroud
I I
because you
I
don't need a 20-goal scorer.
I
Go get a guy that's going to give you 10, who is going to be the space eater to allow Kai Havertz to keep on his form. Because Kai Havertz is in probably the best form he's been in since he first got to Chelsea. He's in the best form he's been in. And if you could find, yes, I'm a mark for Olivier Giroud. He's all I talk about. But the guy was a pivotal and he was an underappreciated player for so many years. Even at 38, or 37, he's still getting called up for France. And he's now playing in the United States. And I'm gonna go see when
I'm
he plays because I'm going to
I'm
go see.
I am
I'm gonna try to shake his hand and go. I'm your number one fan.
I am also part of the Olivier Giroud truther brigade. But it's crazy to me because you just described Nicholas Fulkrug, who went to West Ham.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't Arsenal in on him.
I don't
Talk
know.
about a kind of Giroud clone.
I don't
And
know.
a guy who has experience playing with Kai Havertz in the German national team.
Yeah.
Germany, when they had him at the nine and Havertz right behind him,
Mm-hmm.
that's when they look their most dangerous
Mm-hmm.
at the
Mm-hmm.
Euros. I am
Mm-hmm.
shocked
I'm shocked too.
no what was weren't in on him.
But this is Arsenal. The recent things you're seeing is just how happy they are with selling Nketiah, ESR, and Ramsdale. They're going to get about 100 million for the three of those players. That's great. Who are you going to bring in? Because as we've all said, after the end of last year, they need a striker. They need a forward. They need a center forward. They need someone who's going to help score some goals. We can't have Bukayo Saka being the leading scorer.
And
Or I shouldn't say it that way. You can't be depending on Bukayo Saka to always be the facilitator of your offense every single time. And
well,
that's where I'm concerned.
and that's my other question
Because
because
Martinelli, he's turning into Adama Traore. He's got to get his act together.
so here's my other question too. Like it's the number nine position. My fear, and you saw this not so much 2 years ago, but definitely last season. You keep playing Saka and starting him game in, game out, plus Europe, now more matches in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, he breaks down. Like you don't have that was the one thing when I saw them in the preseason, and I was like, the gap between the starter and the understudy is genuinely massive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh so it's not just necessarily number nine. Maybe it's a number nine who can also play out wide
Play out wide, yeah. Yeah.
because you're gonna have to spell him from time to time, right?
Yeah. Well, the shocking thing too is how much we've seen him play. He's not even 23 yet.
Yeah, and
He'll be
that's
23 next week. And he already has, like, he better not ever play in the League Cup. He better never play in that. He better not play in the FA Cup till they at least get to the quarterfinals. He better not play. Because you're exactly right. And look, he's proving to be very tough because he does get hit a lot. And I'm glad they're at least subbing him out. But he took a knock the last game, had to go back for treatment. Apparently he's fine, but he might not play 90 minutes against Brighton. He might not. So yeah, I just feel like, yes, bringing in those extra wingers is a good idea. I mean, yes, it's a good idea. They were trying to get Nico Williams, but come on.
well,
Everyone's trying to get Nico Williams right now.
That's a wonderful transition into my state of my club. It's hard prying players from clubs from the Basque region. They
Absolutely.
don't want to leave.
Especially, yeah. And he's from that general area. That's where he grew up.
Exactly. So, uh, Liverpool, we have United this weekend at Old Trafford, which it doesn't matter how good we are and how crap they've been recently. Whatever goddamn reason, that place bad juju, man, bad juju.
It does.
But I am gonna say this: I have seen 2 weeks of what I guess we can call slot ball. It's different, and it's like actually watching the matches is different. Your metabolism is is different. Someone said something earlier in the week, and I think it fits. Club ball was heavy metal, emotion, high pressing.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the edge of your seat. You could score 7 goals, but you also might let in 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
So there was always this like, and this is, by the way, painfully German. So I guess it fits.
Mm-hmm.
This constant state of angst.
Yeah.
Slot ball, and again, it's a small sample size.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Brentford and a newly promoted team in Ipswich is more like, prog rock. It's layered. It's, it's calmer. It's, more intricate. And, it's funny. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. And look, I mean, I guess going with the rock and roll analogy, there are sometimes on a Friday when I come home from teaching a week's worth of class where I want to drink like 8 pints of lager and listen to, Black Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
There are some Fridays where I want to eat a gummy and break out that Ashra Temple album that they cut with Timothy Leary. Fucking songs on each side, 20 minutes long.
Right.
Time, space, and just zone the hell out and just calm. Slot ball is weirdly calm. We scored early against Brentford on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. Like, normally, if this was a club team, I'd be like, we need to score a second goal before halftime because we are going to concede or, we're going to give up opportunities. Stead, that's been the calmest I've been watching Liverpool.
Oh, okay. Well, then I need to watch then because I know exactly what you're talking about. Club ball was like that. You got sweaty armpits during club ball.
It was, and like the way that we're defending as a team, right, is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not leaving guys like the two biggest beneficiaries, well, three actually. Ibrahima Konate, because he's
Mm-hmm.
not left on a goddamn island to cover the space that Trent has vacated. He's all the way up the pitch. So,
Right.
like Konate, I'm calm. Ibu's calm. Ryan Gravenberch, because he actually has a goddamn position.
Mm-hmm.
And his style of play definitely fits this way more than, well, he never really had a role under Jurgen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even going to say this: it's actually Mo.
Yeah.
Earlier in the summer, I was like, he is the most likely of our older players to get sold.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think he's actually probably one of the veteran players I think that's most likely to stay.
Mm-hmm.
So much as this. Club ball will prematurely age you. Go check out Jordan Henderson's knees.
Yeah.
He's only 31, but he has the body of a 41.
Are you
Oh yeah,
serious?
he's young.
I thought he
Fabinho,
was like 36.
no, Fabinho just turned 30. Like these guys, the legs are dead.
Wow.
Yeah, Henderson's in his early 30s, man.
That's the most shocking thing I've heard all day. I had
Yes.
no idea.
Those guys are all in their early 30s and their knees be done. So I think Mo's looking at this and saying, wait a minute, I can potentially prolong my career at a high level,
Mm-hmm.
not go to Saudi Arabia at
Mm-hmm.
age 33 because I'm not making these gut busting runs
These runs, yeah.
constantly. I'm making runs by making runs when it makes sense.
Right.
So that's been positive. The fact that up until yesterday we made no transfers,
Yeah, that was shocking.
that was bizarre.
That was
So, and
bizarre.
I
Yeah.
understand, new manager, you have to look at the squad and assess what you have.
Mm-hmm.
But it was clear as day to anybody, that we probably do need a DM. Now we're doing the double pivot now, so like we don't need like a destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
And Gravenberch and McAllister in the pivot have worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But you do kind of feel that you need one more defense first minded guy as an option. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say I wish Byron Robb was here because I think he's his agent. Uh,
Right.
you would think that would be Endo. He doesn't fit this system at all. Slot wants technicians. Endo is, I don't know, the emotion of the samurai and press resistance will carry you. Like he's not particularly technical.
Right.
Uh so we'll see. I mean, we tried to pry a man from the Basque region out of his club. Had we gotten him to Merseyside, we could have gotten that done. We screwed that up. We let him think. And like the longer you let somebody think and think about home cooking and
Yeah, of course.
the pride, the really specific regional pride of your area,
Yeah.
they
Plus, I will say this for a 21-year-old man to live in that part of the world with that population and versus Liverpool,
yeah.
got to be hard to pry away from
And
that
again,
too.
it's kind of it's hold on one second. Yeah, Henderson just turned. I was a little wrong. He's a bit older. He just turned
Yeah, he's
4.
right, but he was out
But
of
still,
Liverpool at 32.
yes. Yeah.
So you're basically that's when
Oh,
his
yeah. My
legs
point. My
died.
point. My point
Yeah,
is still
yeah. By 31, his legs were dead
his legs were
because he
done.
was already out. That last season, he
Yep.
didn't even play,
Oh, he was
and he was
he was
31 that season.
factor. Yep.
So
But anyway,
wow,
uh,
that's still
so
surprising because they
that
got to remember
goes
he's 2 years removed from
speed rock, acid rock.
that.
Both are fun. Both
Right,
both can do the job.
right.
You know.
But
Yeah.
well, I was thinking because I was thinking that about Salah though because the way that the talking heads were saying how they made such a 180 on him. He was gone last year
Yep.
and did one more year, and then they're like, okay, well, Mo Salah's 32. He has nothing left to prove in the Premier League. Go ahead and he can go to Saudi Arabia. But for some reason, I never felt like he wanted to go.
Well, here's the thing. So if he was a little bit younger and had Real Madrid not signed Mbappe,
Hmm.
I could see him going to Real Madrid.
I agree with that too.
And
Yeah.
I'll eat humble pie.
Hmm.
That's an upgrade over Liverpool.
Yeah. I mean,
It's an upgrade over every.
yeah, it is, especially with the way Barcelona is now. It's an upgrade over everybody.
But
Yeah.
that's no longer an option.
Hmm.
I am so glad that shout out to the person who, you know who you are. A former student of mine who's Egyptian American was like, this whole Mo is brown and he is Muslim, therefore he will go to Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
is lazy racist journalism.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
Saudi the Egyptians and the Saudis have a long-standing rivalry.
Of course. Yeah.
So like the notion that he would automatically just go to Saudi, that never made sense to me either.
Yeah. Me neither. Me
And
neither.
in this new system, like I said, he's doing much less running.
Hmm.
I think he's looking at this and says, I can still play for a big club
Uh-huh.
in this system, in this role,
Right.
and I can play at a high level for another 2 to 3 years.
Agreed. I
And,
see Mo Salah coming to the United States before I see him going to
I
Saudi. I
agree.
could totally see that happening.
I could see him going to the MLS and then
Yeah.
probably going back to Egypt because he genuinely loves, you know, the Egyptian setup, his boyhood club, etc.
And they have a competent league.
Yeah, yeah,
Perfectly competent
yeah.
league. So
So I mean, I've been impressed. The transfer window's been weird.
mhm,
Uh and I don't think we're getting a six at least until January. The
mhm,
fact that we denied Barcelona and Leverkusen a loan for Tyler Morton tells me
mhm,
that because I
mhm,
think Slot has seen something in the kid and
mhm.
it's like, okay, we'll proceed with the Gravenberch experiment. I think Morton will probably start the cups
Okay.
and we can then see if he can build on preseason. If not, then I think we will probably move in January.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think we need a center back, but the problem is we don't need a guy who comes in and starts immediately.
Right.
He had Lenny Yarrow in the bag, but then United came in and they were like, "You will start," and he was like, "Oh, can I start?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"Unless Virgil van Dijk drops dead, yeah, no,
Right.
you're not
You're not.
starting."
Right. Right. Right.
So that's a bit of a dicey situation, but I think
Yeah.
ultimately we get one in. The two that we've made. So I said earlier in the window we might need a goalkeeper because I assumed we'd sell Kelleher. I but I think Kelleher has been priced out of a lot of clubs that would buy him. Like
Mhm,
apparently Southampton was interested.
mhm.
We were like, well, yeah, 40 mil. And they were like, no.
No.
So
Yeah.
so he like so we wind up buying Marmadashvili, uh, the Georgian keeper.
Mhm,
Uh, this is weird. So we bought him. We're loaning him back to Sevilla, and then apparently next season he's reporting back, but then we're loaning him to Bournemouth, which
mhm,
seems weird.
mhm,
Hear me out. Allison is going to turn 32 this year.
mhm,
He has 3 years left in his contract.
mhm,
Sevilla, where you're already comfortable. By the way, Marmadashvili's 23, which is the
mhm,
fetus for a goalkeeper.
mhm,
We saw how good he was at the Euros. I
mhm,
mean, 1 year in Spain, 1 year in the Premier League to get used to it.
mhm,
And then you come back and you have Allison on 1 year left.
mhm.
And I assume at that point we would have sold Kelleher.
Yeah.
You have a legit competition.
Mhm, mhm.
I'm okay with this because
Yeah.
during the Premier League era, one of my club's biggest issues is we suck ass at future proof. We have the best, I'll say it. I think we have the best goalie in the world.
I agree.
He may have just gotten the next best goalie in the world 3 years in
Down the line.
advance. I have
That's
no
an interesting
problem.
way to put it. Yeah.
I have no problem with this.
Yeah. Look, if you do it the right way, signing the guy, sending him on loan to get those reps, and then when they come in and they're ready to go, then they're really ready to go. Then, when it works, it's a beautiful thing. Because case in point, that's what happened with Saliba.
Yep. That's I was
Exactly what happened.
that up. This is the sort of goalie version
Yeah.
of William
Yep.
Saliba. It's like
Yep.
you're on our books, but there's 2 years where you won't play here.
Right.
Make sure that you play. And the whole 1 year at Sevilla, which I think drove down the asking price by
Mm-hmm.
5 mil, because that was their main concern. It was like, no, we kind of need him. Like the season
Right.
started, we need him.
Right.
And then 1 year at Bournemouth, specifically to get Premier League experience. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah. That's the way
and
to
then
do it.
the move we made today, I the success rate of Italian players at Liverpool, Mario Balotelli, has not been great. Let's just keep it a buck.
Yeah.
But what have I been saying on this podcast since I've joined? And it goes back to what I was saying about your boy Saka.
Mm-hmm.
Mo's great. Mo is integral. But a young Ben Doak and an out of position Harvey Elliott is not the solution. And you need actual depth and coverage at that position.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier in the window, like, Kube from Sociedad's name got brought up. I was, smashing the table and being like, well, if we're going to sell Diaz, go and raid Napoli and get Kvaratskhelia because he's
Yeah.
both right and left.
Mm-hmm.
I understand he had a major injury, ACL, but he's 2 years removed from that.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Juve had financial issues. I didn't realize they had these kind of financial issues.
Yeah. Well, they seem to cycle their financial issues.
How the hell do you get Federico Chiesa for 12 million pounds?
That's all?
Yeah. With add-ons, it can come up to 15 mil.
Oh.
But straight the flat, straight up was 12. Explain to me this. And again, I know he had injury issues.
Yeah, but he's
And I know,
26.
yeah,
He's only 26.
he's 26. Before the injury, he was being spoken about as, an 80 million pound, the best, attacking player of Italy in generations.
Mm-hmm.
And like, look, I get it. His numbers, he played almost every match last year. He missed a couple matches because of muscle fatigue. No shit, you did in your ACL. This time
Yeah.
last year, one leg was skinnier than the other leg. Of course, you're gonna have muscle fatigue.
Muscle fatigue, yeah.
He only scored like 10 goals in the league. I think he had 15 in all comps. But that's because he was being played as a right wing back because Allegri's a moron. I don't understand how this happened. And for this, for this at this at
That
that
I mean, 15 million pounds.
15 million pounds for a guy who starts on most teams in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, we have that depth, we have that cover at that right wing spot.
Because you can give him time to heal.
Precisely. He's not going to have to start all the time because
But that's
oh,
only 15.
15 total. Yeah.
But look, Juve has been charged time and time again with, cooking the books a little bit. And I'm sorry, this kind of reeks of maybe things aren't all right in Torino right now.
Yeah, something is really wrong. I wish G was here because he's sort of our eyes and ears a little bit in Serie A.
But think of it,
I knew
what's
they were
funny
in
too,
trouble.
though? No, but you're saying it's kind of funny too, because guess who else was supposed to be on the outs? Was Weston McKennie.
Yep.
But now he seems to have been brought back into the fold, and they gave him another contract. And yet they're selling
Arguably one of their 2 or 3 best players
for pennies when you consider what his value could be.
Yeah, I am over the moon by
Because
this.
they're going to, I'd say on a week to week basis, you're paying McKennie a third of what you're going to have to pay him.
Yeah. This is I've been saying rotation. This allows for rotation. And one thing I will say, because in the club system we had so many forwards, Darwin Nunez is the goddamn poster boy for this.
Yeah.
We're direct. Notice we're not very effective against low blocks because if you're just direct, you kind of have to be lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Chiesa brings something a little bit different because he's that kind of guy who could find a little bit of space, fizz something in, somebody gets on the end of it, or he can just, move and back.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thoroughly in. The window isn't over. I still think there's work that needs to be done, but I was shocked when I heard about this yesterday, and then the fact that it got done within 24 hours. Because my team loves to start talking to someone, then 2 weeks later the damn thing gets resolved. Or in the case of Van Dyke, oh, we ran out of time. We'll revisit this in 4 months, right?
Right.
I'm still
I'm sorry, I can't get over the fee. I can't get over the fee.
Yeah.
That's just really, really, really odd.
Well, like I
So
said,
you keep Weston McKennie, who you probably could have sold because he was still under contract. You probably could have sold him for around 15 million. And you let it's weird.
like I said,
Yeah.
I can speak from the Liverpool side of the table.
I'm sure Mike would have an explanation because he always seems to follow this kind of stuff.
I would like Mike. I'd like, again, G's are, Italy.
Yeah.
To sort of at least provide some context. Because again, I knew things were bad at Juve. I didn't think they were potentially this bad.
Yeah.
I the thought of us getting Chiesa seemed like a pipe dream even a year or two ago. The fact that we're getting him you know what? We're getting him for 2/3 of the sell on fee for Dominic Solanke. Thank you, Tottenham. Thank you so much. Straight up, because we got 20 mil from that.
Yeah.
So word. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. That's got to be the weirdest thing of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ivan Toney spent more money at the bookies than we paid for Chiesa.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, Ivan Toney looks like he's about to go to Saudi Arabia too.
Well, I will say this. Casting forward, Jota is our number 9, and he should be. I think he's the most clinical player on the team. I think he might be one of the most clinical players in the league. Darwin Nunez has a couple months to figure out this thing. Doesn't, and he's still at Brentford in January. I don't see. It's funny. I don't think Arsenal need him.
No, and
But I think if Darwin Nunez doesn't work, because Jota will get hurt. It's not when. It's not if. It's when.
Right.
We actually might. if there are signs that this is that Nunez, if our offside merchant isn't working out by
Right.
January, I give Brentford a call and it's like, hey, how much do you want for him?
Yeah, and I feel like Ivan Toney coming to Arsenal, I could just see him coming to Arsenal and not really knowing how he's going to fit into the squad and score a goal or two every now and then and have it in the end, or even it could even be like a, you know, like a Darren Bent, a guy who scores a couple of quick goals when he comes to your club and then gets cold.
Yeah,
Lacazette did that, came to Arsenal, scored a bunch of quick goals, and then all of a sudden he was just sort of not really knowing where he's supposed to go. And because he just didn't seem to fit with what the team was doing, it's no knock on him as a player. It's just things have to gel. There's 22 guys in the field. There's one ball. It's got to gel a specific way. And I could just see Ivan Toney not really not understanding. That's a bad word. But I would say because could you see Ivan Toney playing for Manchester City? Exactly.
yeah,
And,
like
and,
yeah,
and, and the reason why I say that is because look, Pep Arteta's cut from that cloth. He is. He's cut from that cloth. Cut from that cloth. So I think if they were to get a player like Tony, they might need to get a more of a De Bruyne type midfielder, which I don't feel like whoever our captain is. I always forget his name. I don't know why it drives me
Odegaard.
nuts. Odegaard. I don't think Odegaard is a different kind of really good player.
Yeah, he's more of a quote unquote, I guess, prototype attacking midfielder,
Yeah,
where De Bruyne is,
he's going to feed you the ball.
yeah, he's more of
Yeah,
a supplier.
yeah, and I
He can
think
score goals. He's a dead ball. He's deadly, but like
yeah,
he's
and
not.
I kind of talked in a circle there. I didn't
Whereas
really get,
whereas
but
Odegaard might just score 10 goals,
yeah,
open
exactly. I think
play.
that's what I meant to
Yeah,
say.
no, I get it.
Yeah. So while Arteta is cut from that pet cloth, but the way his team is made up, I just don't see Ivan Toney fitting in that well. That being said, with I need to watch Liverpool play because from hearing you describe how the situation has been under Slot, I'm very curious now to see that change because yeah, that might be doable.
Yeah,
It might be
I,
doable, and I
I'm
think
just
for Ivan Toney's sake, when you play for a club like Brentford, you know you're only one bad season away from being back in the championship. And that's all it takes because it happens all the time. If Leicester can get relegated after 2 years after winning an FA Cup and drop all their players, it can happen to a club like Brentford. And I think Ivan Toney has proven himself to be too good for the championship. So I hope he doesn't go to Saudi Arabia. But if Brentford's also like, ugh, they're gonna pay us how much for him, and we're a small little club. We might need to just take it. So, but let's go ahead and wrap this up. This went. I thought we'd be done at about 10:15, and it's almost 11. But
we had things to discuss.
that just shows the chemistry that you and I have when we do a show together, Professor Matt. I feel like you and I have a good chat on here all the time. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And for all the rest of y'all who are supposed to be on this show who sold out, you guys can just get a double fist because I'm teaching middle school again, so I can't be as brash as I would like to be. So, for another week of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, and also I'm going to send out a little ask on the chat to basically say, let's rebrand this, let's get a new name. I feel like this name's kind of run its course. I think we need to go for something new, something a bit more. I don't know, just different, something a little different. I think we had a nice little gap of shows this spring and summer because all of our adult lives are getting in the way. But we'll get on that at some point. But for Professor Matt, thanks again for coming on. Great content as always. Great analysis as always. I really appreciate you coming on with me tonight. I am Stead, and this is the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. And have a great week and enjoy the upcoming list of games and the love of football. Good night, everybody.